Well guys, here it is, the Super Mario Galaxy movie. And unlike the build-up that the first movie went through from all the controversy, people are actually extra thrilled to see this follow-up. Now, if you've been following my videos, then you know that Super Mario Galaxy is not just my favorite Mario game, but my favorite video game of all time. From its amazing concept of Mario going on an outer space adventure with its magnificent gravity and planet navigation mechanics, solid use of motion controls, epic music, and unforgettable levels. Now of course I was super excited that the sequel would be based off the Galaxy games, and to get hyped, I did a whole 100% livestream of the first game, making it the second time I completed the first game, both on the original Wii back in 2021, and recently the 3D All-Stars version. Which I'll admit that back then when I played Galaxy 2 in 2013, I didn't play it as much as the first game, but replaying it when it was re-released for the Switch 1 and 2, which buying it as a solo pack is way better than the combo copy, it's a lot better than I remember as a fun expansion to the first game. Plus it did give me more confidence to also 100% it for the first time in fact. But with that being said, I still preferred the first Galaxy game a lot more because of its charm and wonderful gameplay. As for the movie, I was hoping that it would be good as the first film, but then of course... yeah, critics are just being critics. But it's not just the critics, even internet reviewers on YouTube are giving it harsh reviews, which makes me a bit nervous. But like I said in my videos, I know that this still is an Illumination movie. And considering their experience with sequels, they become more and more quantity over quality. So I went and saw the movie on the week of its release with my brother and his friends, and I have to say that the Super Mario Galaxy movie is good. It's not bad, it's not fantastic, but I am surprised that I didn't find it as bad as I expected it. Now before we begin this review, I want to be very clear that I understand that it's the critic's job to judge the quality of a film, even if some of them were meant for you to turn off your brain and enjoy what it is. And I'm not going to fully defend this movie or else I'll be just a biased Mario fan. But something like this is just too critical even for Illumination's reputation and standards. So while I do agree with its flaws, and trust me, some of them did tick me off just a little, but much like the first one, I know what it is. It may be a Mario movie, but it's still made by Illumination. Now with that being said, let's blast off into this movie and see what it has to offer. So the movie starts with Mario and Luigi discovering and befriend a cute dinosaur that we all know as Yoshi. A few days later, the Mushroom Kingdom is celebrating the day when Princess Peach entered the kingdom for the first time since she was little. Until that fateful night when they got a visit from a baby star named Luma, who informed them that his mother, Rosalina, the mother of the Lumas and guardian of the cosmos, has been kidnapped by Bowser's son, Bowser Jr., who plans to use Rosalina's powers to harness his massive weapon and wants to bring back his father so they can reunite and take over the universe together. So now Mario, Peach, Toad, and this time Luigi and Yoshi embark on a journey of traveling through multiple galaxies to save Rosalina from the Koopa family's wrath. Okay, let's address one of the major negatives out of the way first. There's no way to say this, but the plot of this movie is a mess. It pretty much repeats the same plot beats as the first, where Mario and the gang go on a rescue mission, but this time they're going to space, visiting many planets. But that's not its main issue. The main issue is that for a movie that's based on the Super Mario Galaxy games, you'd think that the movie is going to mainly focus on many of the game's elements, which I will give it that for the most part, the movie used them very well. But when they use those elements in the story, that is where it becomes a mess. This is what the first movie suffers from, and it has to do with its story structure and pacing. It almost have the same running time as the first film, and I think this one did it worse. With its lack of world building, rushed plot, and subplots that don't connect it to the main story and it goes nowhere. But the worst thing about it is that even though they're using elements from the Galaxy games, they barely use those elements as part of the story. It feels like they want to adapt more to the other games such as Mario Odyssey, the American version of Mario Bros. 2, and Super Mario World. And trust me when I say that even though I enjoyed this movie, but considering that this is an adaptation of my favorite video game, there were possibilities that I wanted in this movie, but it ends up being a disappointment, which, ooh, we will get into you later. I'll give the first movie credit that even with its pacing issues, it has a decent story structure where the characters have to visit a few locations and do certain tasks to accomplish their goal of stopping Bowser from taking over the Mushroom Kingdom. The Mario Galaxy movie on the other hand kind of doesn't, and since that this is a sequel, there are subplots. Now granted, some of the subplots and the new ideas that they brought into the film are actually interesting, but because that this is an Illumination sequel, they didn't do anything with it. Such as Mario wanting to be in a relationship with Peach, which makes me questioning why Nintendo established the whole Mario and Peach being friends in the first place. Bowser wants to redeem himself but remains evil when he reunites with his son, and then there's one interesting concept which we will also get into later. But despite everything that I said about one of the movie's major flaws, that doesn't mean that this entire thing is a total failure. Like I said in my review of the first movie, I don't go in and expecting these movies to have a grand, complex story because it's Super Mario. While there are parts that I wish the Galaxy movie would give me something that I truly want to be a bit grander, I only came to see them as a good adaptation by making it as fun and exciting as the games. And like the first movie, the Super Mario Galaxy movie is enjoyable for what it is. It's the kind of movie where you turn off your brain and watch these characters go on a space-themed adventures with some decent humor, likable characters, and tons of fun Nintendo references, which I won't lie, they went a little too hard on it. And Brian Tyler once again made an awesome score with its combination of familiar Mario tunes and original music. And thank God that there's no 80s licensed music that will ruin the experience. But the second biggest highlight of the movie is of course the animation. If there's one thing that I know when it comes to Illumination producing their movies, that they spend more of the budget on the animation. The script on the other hand, they just wrote it for like a weekend and then call it a day. Before the Mario movies, I noticed that while the studio had some good animation, they always had the same kind of quality of art style since the first Despicable Me, where they clearly didn't want to make any of their films look visually distinct from each other with the exception of Sing 1 and 2. Especially when it comes to the character designs and character animation, specifically with the humans, from the way how they move, how they react, and how they are designed. But then came the Mario Bros. Movie, where they completely knock it out of the park with its visuals, and the Mario Galaxy movie definitely leveled up on the animation. No pun intended. They did a great job of presenting the Galaxy aspects with the gravity, the characters flying through the cosmos, and familiar planets, and the new ones like Bowser Jr.'s Planet Fortress. On top of the fun action scenes that capture the Mario energy from the enemy's attacks and the protagonist's use of the power-ups. Even the designs of the more recognizable Mario characters, especially the more famous ones, look great compared to how they appear in the original universe. The characters are still enjoyable with their memorable personalities from both the games and the first film. But sadly, the negative aspects of this movie has to come back. The biggest problem with the characters, both old and new, were kind of a downgrade. Because much like the subplots, they don't really go through any new arcs or any new character development from what they already been through. But like I said before, they're still enjoyable from what they are, along with the new additions to their personalities. I should also point out that the voice acting is still very good from the cast. Mario is the heroic plumber hero who this time wants to open a relationship with Peach. Although at times when Mario and Peach's moments together are really cute, but when Peach and Toad were the first ones who get sent to the galaxy, they barely interact with each other at all. But on the other hand, I like how Illumination denied Nintendo's confirmed lore that Mario and Peach will forever be stuck in the friend zone. Luigi is still the cowardly brother who finally get a chance to shine after being mostly in his brother's shadow from the first movie. Because despite being known as Player 2, he is important as his big bro. And I also like that he has a bit of a role of being Mario's supportive wingman, or in this case, wing bro, whenever Mario tries to express his feelings with Peach. Princess Peach is still the brave and royal protector of the Toads and her kingdom. Like I said before, I don't mind that they made Peach a badass, and they definitely tone it down in this movie, which I'll admit that they went a little bored over with it last time. but I still wish that they kept her real personality of being a cute, cheerful, and optimistic princess. She also wants to know about where she actually came from before she entered the Mushroom Kingdom. And later when we find out about her backstory, I know a lot of people don't like this new addition to her character, and I'm not going to spoil it, but in my opinion, it's one of the new additions in the movie that I think is actually an interesting idea. And keep in mind guys that this is Illumination's own take on the Mario universe. And despite what Miyamoto is currently considering on that specific idea, Nintendo isn't going to go in that kind of direction in the real Mario lore. Along with Peach's Toad, which it is nice that they gave him a little bit of a role as her assistant, but his whole beef with Yoshi doesn't do much for the story. And then there's Bowser, who has gotten the most downgrade of them all. While Jack Black still did a great performance of the character, but he is not as funny as he was before of being a menacing monster and a simp to Peach. He wants to reform his evil deeds and wants to help the bros. But once he reunites with his son, he gradually comes back to being a ruthless villain as he always is. Now, to the movie's credit, I can see what they were trying to do, because there are some times in the games where Bowser drops his villain side whenever he decides to help Mario and the gang, but still has his true villain side and shows the other villains that he will always be the bad guy who came to kidnap Peach and take over the Mushroom Kingdom. And the way he goes through in this movie does make sense. The filmmakers know that Bowser will never change because of the love of his son and the support of his minions, which reminded him who he is even if he doesn't want the main characters to be dead. Also, I love the father and son bonding these two have. They do love being an evil and caring villainous family. As for the new characters, most of them make a good contribution to the film, and they are as enjoyable as they are from the franchise. Well, almost all of them. Yoshi is Mario and Luigi's new animal sidekick slash pet, which although I wish they could have made him a little bit important to the story, but regardless, he pretty much has the role of a Disney animal sidekick who provides the movie's charm. And Donald Glover still surprisingly does an amazing impression on the fruit-loving dinosaur.
He knows that's my bike, right?
Bowser Jr. is mostly the main villain, and much like Bowser, the filmmakers perfectly portrayed his personality, where he is like his dad but as a menacing little brat with the power of his magic paintbrush and wants to rule the universe with his dad. And like I said, I love their father and son dynamic where even if Bowser somewhat cares about Mario and the gang, he still is a very supportive father and wants his son to follow his footsteps. Benny Safdie also surprisingly does a great performance as the Koopa Prince. I'm actually one of those people who like Fox McCloud's appearance in this movie. He's like Donkey Kong from the previous movie where he is a special guest who later came to help the gang stop Bowser and his son. Also keep in mind that while DK is a Mario character, he never appears in the mainline games, only the spin-offs. I do like the Star Fox elements he brought into the journey, and I like his snarky ego personality. And finally, there's Rosalina, the mother of the Lumas and watcher of the cosmos. She was always known as not one of the best characters, but also the best princess in the franchise, from her backstory, being the most powerful princess, and her kind and graceful personality. The movie does a great job of introducing her at the beginning when she shows her powerful side as the protector of the galaxy and her soft caring side of being the mother to the Lumas. But unfortunately, she is the biggest letdown of this entire movie. Because much like Luigi in the first movie, she is the damsel in distress and she only has 5 minutes of screen time. Which makes it even more frustrating how the movie mostly forgot the whole idea of adapting Super Mario Galaxy. And it doesn't even help much that Brie Larson, who I do love her performance as Rosalina, but the fact that she states that she is a die-hard Nintendo fan like the rest of us, and was excited to play one of the most popular characters from the games, but the movie forgot that Rosalina is the most important thing in Super Mario Galaxy. If you ask me, Illumination pretty much screwed up on how they handled the character, casting her with a celebrity who loves Nintendo, and the hype from the entire fandom. But let me calm my fanboy self down and admit that even though it's disappointing that Rosalina didn't get a bigger role in this movie, she is still very likable like everyone else. Bottom line, all the characters are still likable, but I wish they could have let the old characters from his predecessor evolve a little bit, and the new ones, except for Bowser Jr., could have been better. In conclusion, the Super Mario Galaxy movie has the same result as the first Mario movie. It is meant to be a popcorn flick where it wants to be like the games with a simple story, fun action sequences, fun references, and lovable characters. But looking at this movie as a quality standpoint, it's not as good as its predecessor. The story is a mess, the pacing is bad even for Illumination standards, it mostly forgot to adapt the whole idea of the source material, the characters were downgraded, and the new ones, while they are nice additions, but some of them are a huge letdown. As an adaptation to one of the best video games of all time, you would expect something a bit better. But like I said in the beginning, I don't come to see these movies expecting them to be grand. I wanted a Mario movie that has a good amount of adapting the franchise and being reminded that both of these movies are still an Illumination movie. I mean, say what you want about the studio, even if they wanted to tell good stories but didn't go all out on it, they just want to make a simple little movie for the kids and even for the whole family. The first movie does have issue with its quality, but I do prefer that movie because it has a most solid execution of the story and character development. The Galaxy movie is very flawed, but it still is enjoyable for what it is, and I'm glad I saw it. The animation is even more spectacular, it does a decent job of adapting the Galaxy games, the music is great, the voice acting is good, and the characters are still fun to watch as much as when we play as them. For my recommendation for the sequel are almost the same as it was before. If you're a Nintendo fan, you would probably find it passable if you just wanted to turn off your brain and enjoy it. As for the rating, I'm gonna give this the Fire Flower medal. It was close getting the Mushroom medal, but again, it was worth seeing it. So now the question points to you guys. If you've seen the Mario Galaxy movie, do you think it's good or disappointing? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, then don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. You could also watch more of my reviews as well as a bit of gaming content and other videos that I occasionally make. Thank you so much for being patient on waiting for this video to come out, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Have a wonderful day, be safe out there, be kind to everyone, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.